welcome to Policing TV, and I'm delighted to be here in the Police Now offices in central London with Police Now's Chief Executive, Kurtis Christoforides. Now, Kurtis, help me, just let's get that surname exactly right. I get it right?
I think it was perfect. Christoforides.
Christoforides. Lovely to be here, Kurtis. Thank you so much for the invite here. Now, not everybody will know about Police Now and what it provides. Not everybody will know about the journey that Police Now has been on. And not everybody will know anything about your own background. So let's see if we can tackle these three matters and more in this first likely of three videos. So let's start by understanding a little bit more about your own background prior to becoming the Chief Executive here at Police Now.
Thanks, Peter. Well, I'd love to say it was a really fascinating and exciting story. It's not particularly. My professional background, I suppose, is as a police officer in the Met. I was a uniform constable and a uniform sergeant. Did most of my service in East London, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I would recommend that job to anybody. What
brought you into policing in the first place?
I think it's a great question. Well, I'd always planned to go in the Royal Navy. For many years, and I came to London for university. I'm a country bumpkin by origin from the deepest southwest, and I came to London for university with a plan of doing that course and going into the Royal Navy. And I got distracted, as so many people do, on the way. But I knew that I wanted to do something in the uniformed services. Wanted to do something in public service. I wanted to do something to make the world a bit of a better place, and so I joined the Met.
It's quite a leap. So maybe not quite as much of a leap as having an aspiration to go into banking and then finding yourself in the police. But so there was a determination to be in public service that ended up being translated into joining the Met. And you enjoyed that time then in the Met? Yeah,
I did. And I often say that I think the job of being a police officer is a fantastic job. It's a very challenging job, of course, as you will well know. And sometimes police forces can be challenging organisations to work in because they're pulled and pushed in so many different directions. But the fundamental job of fighting crime, standing up for victims, being a leader in society, I think is the most fantastic job, and I enjoyed almost every minute. Not perhaps those 3 a.m. in the morning, pouring rain, stood on a crime scene kind of moments, necessary and purposeful as they are. But I really enjoyed my time.
And of course, there are times when police officers have difficult and challenging, particularly difficult and challenging tasks to fulfil. So, but in the main, an enjoyable time.
Very much so.
Now, whilst you were a serving Metropolitan Police officer, that's roughly the time, in that period of time, when Police Now was first established. So tell us something about that foundation, some roughly 10 years ago, of Police Now, how it came about.
So Police Now emerged from an organisation set up by Tor Garnett, who is a police officer in the Met, a fantastic one, called the Commissioners 100, and she described that as a frontline do tank rather than a think tank, and her aim, I think, 10, 11, 12 years ago, was to bring together people, police officers, police staff, initially in the Met, who were, I think, who could see ways of doing things differently to how we'd always done them in the past, and to from the front line to advance ways that we could improve our service, ways that we could make the job even better for those doing it, and all that kind of stuff. And there's this group of people who wanted to do things differently, coming up with ideas about how we could make things better, and we came up with loads of ideas. For example, streamlining the thousands and thousands of pages of guidance and regulations and standard operating procedures about how you deal with this, that and the other, which is very difficult and impenetrable to manage at 3 o'clock in the morning in the pouring rain, as any police officer will know. And one of these ideas, alongside that and many others, was that policing, being the fantastic job that it is, should have a really strong presence in the grad recruitment market, because we sort of looked beyond policing and we looked at these different industries and these sectors, there was loads of places saying, come and be an accountant, come and be a consultant, come and be a civil servant, come and do all these things, and competing for talent. And policing didn't really have that established national brand to compete for the most diverse, high quality talent coming out of the universities, in the UK and beyond.
So I just pick up on this point. So Tor Garnett, now I believe a superintendent in the Met, she was, from memory, either a sergeant or inspector at the time these ideas were developed. David Spencer, no longer with policing, is also often associated with the establishment of Police Now. But your remarks there, Kurtis, suggest that it wasn't just those two who were working on these ideas. It was actually a group of others that were looking at different ideas in policing and how they might further improve the way that policing went about its inverted commas business. So is that correct? It wasn't just a single idea that emerged. It was a number of ideas that emerged, and this is one that has really grown particularly well.
Yeah, I think Bernard, that's fair to say. I would be the first to say, I think absolutely that Tor is and always has been the intellectual powerhouse behind Police Now, and she deserves every bit of credit for that. I think there were a number of other people, who made modest contributions in the background and came on board at various stages. Myself being one, lots of other people who sort of built it, kind of iteratively, I suppose,
and it was
out of that early idea.
And it was drawing from some experience in the teaching profession. I think Teach Now. Teach First. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the naming's slightly different there. So the aspiration, as you've described it, was to encourage those primarily at university to consider a policing career, at least as the early part of their career, and to get them very early in their working life after university into policing. Is that again correct?
So I think broadly that's right. I would say a couple of things that I think it's really important to sort of contextualise. I think the first thing is what Police Now doesn't say and has never said is that to be a fantastic police officer you need to be a graduate. Clearly, one of the great strengths of policing is that it attracts people from all different backgrounds, people who are new into their career, people who've had multiple different careers and are coming into it later in life. There's a whole range of people that come in and make policing brilliant. I think what Police Now was saying and is saying is that if you're going to successfully compete in that very competitive grad recruitment space for the very most talented and diverse people, you need to work really hard in that space, and you need to have a very coherent, clear offer to new and not so new graduates to explain to them, well, don't go and become a consultant, don't go and become a banker, come to public service, and don't just come to public service, come to policing, because this is the place where you can make the biggest possible impact and where you will get leadership and other forms of development that are absolutely unrivaled.
So we'll talk in video 2 about the present day, but just join the dots for us between that early establishment of what became Police Now towards the present day. So initially it was hot-housed, if that's quite the right word, within the Metropolitan Police in London here in the UK. It's developed from there to pretty much a national charity, in fact, here in the UK. Take us just a little bit through that journey towards the present day. How did that all develop?
So, as you say, it started off within the Met, and there was an idea, those early pioneers managed to convince Bernard Hogan-Howe, who was then the commissioner, and others within the Met, that this was something that we should try, and so we did. And in 2014 into 2015, we recruited our first ever cohort of new police officers, and they just went to the Met. And whilst it was not perfect, and I often say that back in those days it was built out of paper and string, like something from Blue Peter. It did seem to work quite well, and we got a remarkable cohort of people who just wouldn't have joined the police service but for Police Now, and that attracted the attention of different forces, attracted the attention of the Home Office, and so there was a question: could this be done nationwide? Could this be offered to other forces rather than just the Met? So in 2016, the organisation was spun out from the Met into an independent charity, which it still is today. It's a charity. It has no profit motive. There's no commercial element to it. And the reason that was done is so that it could offer the same thing to all forces. So during those years, sort of 2015, 16, 17, we grew very rapidly. I think my reflection would be, if I were to do it all again, probably a bit too rapidly, as often is the case with these exciting new things. We work with a large number of forces, and to bring people into all different parts of the country, and that was a remarkable time. And then, of course, just as we were sort of, just as we'd really learned, how do you do this point? How do you do this attraction? How do you do this training? How do you do it?
I think I know where this is going.
Of course, then came along the Police Uplift programme, which put a further sort of rocket, I suppose, behind.
So for those from outside the United Kingdom and those not familiar with the Police Uplift programme, then government commitment to recruit from memory some 50,000 police officers, very substantial number anyway. Not net extra, but rather recruit a significant number. Was that the right number, by the way?
So it was to increase the size of the police service by 20,000.
Was it 20? Okay.
Which meant that we had to recruit 50,000, okay. Nearly 50,000. To make up for both, add that 20,000 and make up for the
and so Police Now was very well positioned to assist with that. That additional 20,000, my recollection, was achieved, although there were some forces that didn't quite get to where they were intended to get, and there was a financial penalty associated with not getting there. So some challenging times. The essence of it, though, being that Police Now was very well placed to support that. Now that Uplift programme no longer exists, but very much still a place for Police Now.
The number was hit. It was reached, and that is very much to policing's credit. Police Now did just under 2,000, of that total, which I think everyone here is really, really proud to have played a part in that. I think that what that did, though, was that it sort of took Police Now in a slightly different direction to the direction that it might otherwise have done. Because, of course, if we think, back to those early years, what was Police Now founded to do? What's the difference that it has to contribute? This was always about getting people who wouldn't have otherwise considered a police career. It was all about training them in a different way, supporting them, and developing them as leaders, not necessarily with rank, but leaders with and without rank, early in their career. To help to improve, policing culture and to, I guess, take policing in the direction that it wanted to go in. And I think, one of the challenges of the Uplift programme is that necessarily it was a huge stretch for policing to reach those numbers. And so, that meant that, for example, in those middle years of Uplift, we were running more academies than we ever would. We were working with more forces than we ever would. And Police Now is still quite a small organisation. It was started, I often say it was started by sort of 3 people and a dog, which is only slightly an exaggeration. And of course we're a little bit bigger now. But it was a fascinating journey. But I guess I think that's particularly relevant. Because, and perhaps we'll explore this in subsequent conversations. I think maybe the most exciting thing is, where's it going to go next, and what's the plan for the future.
We certainly will come on to that in what I hope will be video 3.
Yeah.
What we'll do, though, Kurtis, for the time being, is take a pause. We've talked about the past. Video 2 is very much going to talk about the present, and we'll learn more there about Police Now's various activities. And then video 3 will talk about the future. But for the time being, Kurtis, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.